in 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick took us places NASA never goes. That's why it's one of our favorite movies. Hard to believe it's only 5 years away. Experience 2001: A Space Odyssey, next on TNT.
Its release provoked an uneasiness among moviegoers, but its sheer beauty draws audiences back again and again. Director Stanley Kubrick takes filmmaking to new heights. Tonight, our favorite movie is 2001: A Space Odyssey. From the dawn of man, humans have regarded themselves as the most intelligent life form on Earth and in the heavens beyond. But what if in this universe surrounding man, there existed forces much more powerful than man had ever imagined? Here lies the premise of director Stanley Kubrick's science fiction extravaganza, 2001: A Space Odyssey. The film's 1968 premiere shocked audiences by pushing them many times beyond their perceptions of faith and comprehension. Audience anticipation for the film had been high, as Kubrick's previous directorial outing, Dr. Strangelove, had shown moviegoers he was not afraid to tackle the big questions in his films, and man's place in the universe is no small question. Based on a short story by acclaimed science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke, 2001 was co-written by Clarke himself and Kubrick. The script took over 21 months to complete, and yet the first dialogue is not spoken until almost 30 minutes into the film.
Please state in the following order: your destination, your nationality, and your full name.
And while the sparse wordplay is used to help propel the plot, it is the film's stunning visual elements that help propel the movie.
It's like music, 2001. The rhythm of cutting from one image to the other, and then the movement of each image.
In keeping with the theory that a picture paints 1,000 words, Kubrick cast lesser-known actors, Keir Dullea and Gary Lockwood, in the movie's main roles. The star of the film is the package of compelling music and dazzling special effects, led by an all-seeing, all-knowing computer named Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
In Kubrick's world, man can no longer control the machine he created. The mere presence of a temperamental and subversive machine like Hal completely overpowers the mission. And just as the astronauts become dominated by Hal, the human actors must take second billing to Kubrick's technological devices. The result is a film which spotlights not the actors and what they say, but what is going on around them and what is happening to their world.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Today, with the year 2001 less than a decade away, the film continues to remind us where we have been and where we could possibly be going.
18 months ago, the first evidence of intelligent life off the Earth was discovered.
But if audiences don't want to contemplate the universe of 2001 from a plot standpoint, they can still enjoy it for its magnificent beauty and awe-inspiring score.
2001 is just one of those I would just keep watching because it has a hypnotic quality to it, and it's like a piece of music, and it's a transcendent type of film. It's really extraordinary.
And now, one of our favorite movies in its original widescreen format, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
TNT presents the following motion picture in its original widescreen format.
Our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, will continue on TNT after these messages. Our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, will continue on TNT after these messages. Our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, will continue on TNT after these messages. Our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, will continue on TNT after these messages. Our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, will continue on TNT after these messages. Our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, will continue on TNT after these messages. We now return to 2001: A Space Odyssey on TNT. Our favorite movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, will continue on TNT after these messages. Our favorite movie, 2001, will continue after these messages. Don't miss 2010 coming up next at 11 p.m. Eastern only on TNT.
Coming up on TNT.
What's going to happen?
2010 is next on TNT.
I enjoy working with human beings and have stimulating relationships with them.
The year is 2010. It's been 9 years since the computer HAL malfunctioned and killed the crew of Discovery. Will he do it again?
HAL represents the ultimate evil to me. He is just all of this machinery gone wacko.
The Americans and the Russians take off for Jupiter to find out what went wrong in 2001. Next, TV talker Larry King hosts one of our favorite movies, 2010.
"2010 was a hell of a good yarn, well directed, well told. You didn't go for popcorn in the middle. You were well involved. It was story driven with a great lead.
We're going to send a boarding party over to climb inside this 800-foot-long shipwreck floating over Io to see if she can be rescued before her orbit gives up. There are 9 years of secrets inside, including a sleeping computer who knows the answers.
Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal? Hal?
2001: A Space Odyssey is a great film because it's anything you want to make it. And the more you see it, the more you realize that. I think it's a story of beginnings and endings and beginnings again. The apes to the planet, to the child, to the embryo, to back. I think it's a story of continuance. I think the brilliance of it, and Arthur Clarke, who wrote it, is a genius, is you can make it anything you want to make it. 2010 was a heck of a good yarn. It was a good yarn. Plot-driven. 2001 was not plot-driven. That's why I thought they were good sequels.
So here we are, 9 years later, trying to figure out what the hell happened and what the monolith is all about. And guess what we discover along the way? The possibility of life of some kind, where it never existed before.
It had a terrific lead actor, Roy Scheider, superior actor to Keir Dullea and the others who... The actors were secondary in the Kubrick film. But Scheider can never be secondary in anything he does. He's too upfront, he's too forward, and I've gotten to know him pretty well, and I like him a lot.
We left some good men up there, and I sent them. I have to go.
He's enormously bugged because he has guilt over what happened with the previous mission. What went wrong with Hal? How am I ever going to find it out? And the only way to find it out is to go up. And I don't think he could rest content without going up and finding out.
Good morning, Dr. Chandra. This is Hal. I'm ready for my first lesson.
I love the voice of Hal. I hated Hal, but I love the voice.
I don't know if Hal was homicidal, suicidal, neurotic, psychotic, or just plain broken.
I'm an anti-machine person. So Hal probably represented greater evil to me than even to others. Experts have told me, who I've interviewed, there could never be a Hal, because a computer could never reason. Therefore,
20 seconds.
what is that? He's evil incarnate. Now, I remember certain friends years ago who told me they liked him. They kind of liked Hal, a little devilish. I didn't like him. Didn't like him in either film.
Something truly amazing is going on out here, and I really believe this black giant is controlling it all. We have so much to ask. I have the feeling the answers are bigger than the questions.
It should come out of 2010, feeling pretty good. That you just saw a pretty darn good movie with a damn good plot, well acted, that whose ending is a source of hope. Maybe that's why they couldn't do another one. What's left to say after 2010?
And now, one of our favorite movies, 2010. Our favorite movie, 2010, starring Roy Scheider, will continue on TNT after these messages. And now, back to host Larry King on TNT.
I've interviewed many astronauts over the years, and the one thing they told me, and then when I met some cosmonauts that bore out true, is how much alike they are. Astronauts and cosmonauts are very similar personalities. They're first adventurers, second explorers, and third nationalistic. So the first thing about them is they're hail well meant. They like to get away from people protecting them. They like to drink. They like to go off on their own. They have psychological problems, which many have seen since. Maybe some of them have gone a little nuts on both sides.
We now return to 2010, starring Roy Scheider on TNT. Our favorite movie, 2010, starring Roy Scheider, will continue on TNT after these messages. And now, back to host Larry King on TNT.
Ray Bradbury told me the first thing you got to have in science fiction, mystery fiction, any fiction, is a good plot. I got to care about somebody. Good has to win over evil. Love has to triumph over hatred. I mean, something has to happen. When that happened, 2010 gave me everything else. It was wonderful direction that really looked like a ship. I believed I was in that spaceship. The solitude of it was fantastic. Scheider was great, Lithgow was great, the cast was great, the girl was tremendous.
We now return to 2010, starring Roy Scheider on TNT. Our favorite movie, 2010, starring Roy Scheider, will continue on TNT after these messages. And now, back to host Larry King on TNT.
Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov, the late Isaac Asimov and the very alive Ray Bradbury, are two maybe most famous science fiction writers. Didn't fly. Asimov never left Manhattan. He was afraid to leave Manhattan. Driving into Jersey was a chore for him. And there was a guy who wrote 400 books on going into outer space. Ray Bradbury, who designed the Epcot space, like the saucer that's on the ground, never flies. I asked Ray Bradbury once, why are you afraid to fly? And he said, I am not afraid to fly. I'm afraid to fall.
We now return to 2010, starring Roy Scheider on TNT. Our favorite movie, 2010, starring Roy Scheider, will continue on TNT after these messages. Our favorite movie, 2010, starring Roy Scheider, will continue on TNT after these messages. And now, back to host Larry King on TNT.
There was a hotel opened in Boston a couple years ago. I think it was a Sheraton. And they had an opening night dinner, and I was the speaker. And I got in the afternoon. The whole lobby is jammed with people. Jammed! And there's suitcases and trunks, and they're a mess, and people are screaming and yelling. I said, what happened? Well, the computer's down. We can't check anyone in. I said, what about just hand them a key? No, key won't work. We need the computer to work to let the key in. I said, what about the old-fashioned way? Mr. Jones, you're in room 620. Can't do that anymore. The computer runs our life. And 2001 was the forerunner of that.
We now return to 2010, starring Roy Scheider on TNT. Our favorite movie, 2010, starring Roy Scheider, will continue on TNT after these messages. And Now, back to host Larry King on TNT.
We have programmed Hal to be in human conflict. My government's telling me one thing, but if I do this, I know I'm hurting the people I'm supposed to help, which I would imagine CIA bureau chiefs face all the time. I'm going to do this mission. It could cost Ed's life. What do I do it as a human is a dilemma. We give the dilemma to a computer. Still didn't make me like him any better. But that's what do we do for a country? What is the life of an individual over a country? What do you do when you're faced with moral dilemmas? Except I don't believe a computer could have. Now, we could have programmed it. I'm sure you could program a computer to blow up your own aircraft. But to give a computer the emotional feeling of, why am I doing this to my two friends? If I believe a computer can have a friend, I'm living in the wrong, I'm on the wrong planet.
We now return to 2010, starring Roy Scheider on TNT.